The Hero Network Show is brought to you by Escalate Performance Solutions, your partner in improving and growing your organization. Elevate your performance. Achieve your potential. Learn more at www.wescalate.com.
At Compián Funeral Home, we understand that honoring a loved one's memory is deeply personal. Our family-owned funeral home has served the community with compassion, respect, and care for over 25 years. Whether it's a traditional ceremony or a unique celebration of life, we help you create a heartfelt tribute that reflects their spirit and legacy. Let us guide you through these difficult times with support that feels like family. Visit us today at compianfuneralhomes.com.
Hello, Houston, and hello, world. This is Vicki Cruz with the Hero Network TV, and alongside me is my co-host, Victor Escalante.
Vicki, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
You ready to do this?
I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to talk about heroes in the making, heroes who are impacting our community. And for today's guest, we have someone who we've had the honor of knowing. And let me introduce you to our guest. His name is Dan Simon. Welcome.
Well, thank you both very much for having me here today. I look forward to having a conversation with you, and hopefully we can let everybody kind of know who I am and why I'm running for Harris County District Attorney.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dan, for your time and just sharing who you are, the amazing things you've done. Not only are you a hero in our community, but he is ultimate hero of our Air Force, our military. Yeah, so you're a veteran. You want to share with the community and the listeners?
I enlisted in the Air Force out of high school, and I wanted to be a cop. And for many reasons, and I really enjoyed being in the military, and I was actually at a base, what they call a deployment base, and managed to get volunteered for over the desert a couple of times. So I definitely enjoyed the military.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your service.
So Dan, tell us how the military impacted your future life trajectory.
Well, military actually gave me the opportunity and the ability to actually afford college. I wanted to go to college, and the MGI Bill, and then if you deploy from Texas, you can get the Hazelwood Act. So without those things, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
And where did you go to school at?
So I actually, can I backtrack a little bit and give you a little bit of life story? Is that okay? Because it kind of flows better that way.
Exactly. I was like, I want to hear the life
going
story.
way out of this. Okay, so
Southwest Texas.
All right, so I was born in Galveston, and most of my childhood I spent in the Beaumont-Port Arthur area. Now, I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. My parents divorced when I was very young, and most of my childhood I lived in cars, tents, campers, motels, occasionally the one night or 1 month of rent we can afford when we'd stay with friends and family. So most of my childhood I was homeless. And the state of Texas came in and took us away in the middle of the night and put us in foster care. I'm going to tell you now, foster care is actually worse than being homeless. It was not a very good experience. Once I got out of foster care and bouncing around a lot, I didn't get to stay at most schools long enough to build the building blocks of education, but they would put me in special classes and they would just push me through despite I didn't have the ability to go to the next grade. That was the only way that I was able to keep up. Now, when I got out of foster care at the age of 12, I moved in with friends that I met through the Salvation Army. I didn't have many choices. Nobody in my family has ever graduated. So I moved in with friends to have the opportunity to be the first to graduate high school in my family's history. A lot of you can'ts out there, like, you can't graduate, you can't play sports, you don't come from your dad's not the superintendent. And I managed to accomplish a lot in high school. I was an all-district quarterback, and I did graduate number 4 in my class, the first in my family. But when I graduated, I was told, Dan, we can't afford to help you. You're on your own. So the only choice that I really had was the military. And I joined the Air Force because I wanted to be a cop. The main reason I wanted to be a cop is because you see predators prey on the poor, the weak, and the vulnerable. and I was not spared. Between the ages of 8 and 15 years old, I was a child victim. Nobody was there to give me a voice. Nobody was there to listen to me. Nobody was there to help me in my time of need. And I never want people to ever feel that way. That's why I wanted to be a cop in the Air Force. When I got out of the military, I went into business for myself, kind of a different conversation altogether. But I got inspired to go to college at 27 years old.
Great.
I do not recommend, I want to go to college anytime, but going back at 27 was very humbling. I did go to Sam Houston State University, where I graduated #1 out of 1,108 students.
Wow.
And then I got accepted here in Houston to Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Now, I was told, Dan, don't go to Thurgood. You can't pass the bar from Thurgood. You can't graduate, and you certainly can't get a good job from Thurgood Marshall. Well, the things that were not stripped from me as a child was my honor and my integrity, and you dance with those who brought you. Thurgood did give me an opportunity. I did go to Thurgood, graduated magna cum laude, passed the bar on the first try, and now I'm running to be the first Thurgood Marshall, Texas Southern University District Attorney in Harris County history.
Wow.
This is where I am right now.
That's amazing.
That's
I then did not like tax enough that I got a master's in tax law at the University of Houston. I was going a different path in life before the DA's office came calling. I was going to take over a tax law firm and work that. But I think God has a path for you, and when you get off that path, God puts you right back on it. You may not agree with it, but He puts you back on it. And I was steered towards the DA's office. I applied to the DA's office to do an internship. And I was really excited, and they called me and said, Dan, we don't take lawyers as interns, so we're going to put you in the other pile. So when it came time, about October 2013, I got a call from the DA's office. And they said, we'd like you to come in and interview. And I said, Mary, I'm looking at taking over your law firm. I don't know if this is a good idea. And she said, Dan, go check it out and see what you think.
Oh, that's awesome. I know, like we heard so much, and it's like I want to just break down the story of.
Let's do that. I'll stop right there.
You know, so you said, okay, so
You've
Beaumont.
given us a lot to digest.
I know. It's like, you know, because what we really focus on, as you know, is about children, families. You know, I'm a daughter of a veteran, a Marine veteran. So when we're looking at, there's so much, you know, so many areas that need to be covered in what's happening in the lives of many children and families. Because just like I know what you just reading and listening to your stories, which I think are amazing, you know, you talk about the different dysfunctions that your family was going through and how you were in the foster care system, how, you know, the abuse that you've endured, you know, so there's so much. If you don't mind, Dan, can we just talk about that so we can share with our viewers, listeners, people that are learning about who you are and about what you did, how you overcame? Because when I see you, you're like just an overcomer, you know, someone who doesn't stop, hasn't stopped, and you just keep going like the little Energizer bunny. I thought Victor and I had energy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you were like amazing. And so, you know, so we're going to talk about your adolescence, you know.
Okay. Well, here's why I shared that with you, and I'll share this with all your viewers.
Okay.
I don't share my story for sympathy. I share it for inspiration, everything that I've accomplished. And yeah, I'd like to, if you want to dive deeper into that, we are more than happy to.
And it's only because sometimes, you know, what tends to happen is that viewers can watch and learn, right? And also get to really know who you are. And so with that said, I'm going to let Victor ask the first question.
So another thing that we want to focus on is the difference that makes the difference. Because you had that troubled childhood. You had the disadvantage. But what is the difference that makes the difference that makes a person rise up and, in spite of what you are told, never give up on your belief system that you can do this? We're interested in knowing, what was it that you told yourself? What kept you going? What is it that our viewers can learn, that if you're going through this is what you got to focus on?
We're going to dig really deep. Let me explain to you why and how I got to where I am. As a kid, I lived in a world where the government paid you. My mom got Social Security, my dad got Social Security income, my brothers and my sister, they got Social Security income because they didn't pass a certain test. Well, I passed the test, which made me a liability in my own family. I wasn't an asset. I wasn't wanted. My mom would come around and take my brothers and my sister because I didn't bring in any income, and all I did was want to show that I'm an asset, I'm worth having around. So early on, I did everything I could to show that I'm valuable, I want to be a part. But most of the time I was left with my dad, and I didn't get to partake in that, and it was okay. But I did everything I could, and going back to my early childhood, that's exactly why I am and who I am today. I don't want to be viewed as a liability. I wanted to be viewed as an asset. So I go out there and I outwork everybody. The reason, I'm not smarter than everybody in this room, but I will outwork everybody. And that's how I become an asset. And that's the same thing in how I've gotten to where I am in life. And it was that early on lesson that I was being taught that, hey, you don't have any income coming in. You're worthless. In fact, you're a liability. We don't want you. I get that. A lot of people go through that. A lot of kids go through that. And so what I did was I mowed grass, I raked leaves, I cleaned houses. I did everything I could to earn money, to show that I'm worth keeping around, doing whatever I could do. That was my early childhood. Then you add in the abuse. In the foster system, they'll send you to a place. It'll be like a dorm with a bunch of their kids. Or if you get a chance to be with a family, sometimes it comes at a high cost. And you have a choice to either endure the abuse and reap the benefits of actually being in a stable environment, or fight against it and be put in a shelter and basically forgotten.
So you were in the foster care, okay, so you were in the shelter.
Not in the shelter, we were sent to a family.
A foster care.
And it was a family, and my sister bore the brunt of the abuse, and my brother, the older than me, 1 year older, or he's like 3 years older than me. And it didn't stop there. And this is somebody that was qualified to the state of Texas to be a foster parent. 80s was not very, I don't think, very good in qualifying people. They wanted money, and then predators also lived in that same area. So it became normal. It became like this is just part of life. Being around drugs, being around drinking, being around all that atmosphere was nothing to me. And I never got into drinking, never got into smoking because it was available to me. But if you want to really dig on how I got to where I am, is every day I work to make sure I'm never a liability and that I'm an asset. And it goes right back to my childhood. So I hope that's deep enough for you.
A self-made person. That's what we're looking at here, Vicki, is someone that understood the concept of personal value, bringing something to the table of value that I want to quote him. He was never going to be outworked. That tenacity, that grit, that has been shown to be the number one factor in the success of people. The grit.
The grit.
And what I want to do is every kid out there that's suffering, that's going through that right now, I'm just saying, don't give up. Don't succumb to it. Don't accept that as your path. A lot of kids do, and they just like you, and I'll tell you right now, a lot of women never make it out. A lot of girls never make it out. I mean, Houston has a problem right now. We've got human trafficking here. You've got sex trafficking all around, and it seems like nobody cares. Nobody's doing enough for it.
Oh, I know.
And it's very sad that that's modern day slavery is going on right now.
And it's sad because it's in the schools.
It's right.
It's right in the schools. It's in the home. It's in the apartment. I mean, it's just, I mean, it could be your next door neighbor. And no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. So we're going to talk about now, I mean, Victor, do you have any questions about the adolescents? I know you said that there was five. Was there five?
I have 4 brothers and 1 sister,
Four
yes.
brothers, so it was
None
6
of them graduated high school.
Oh,
my mom and dad never graduated high school. I think my mom and dad got to the 5th and 6th grade.
So are they still in Southwest Houston?
My dad passed away. So to digress just a moment, when I was 19 years old, my dad had been disabled my entire life, and he was fishing for a living to make ends meet. And he was almost killed in a boating accident. And at 19 years old, I took in my dad as my man-child dependent at 19 years old.
Wow.
No child should have to take on that responsibility. And he was my dependent until 2015, until his passing. My 4 brothers and 1 sister, most live here in Texas, some out of state, and I've got 1 brother in prison. So I come from a pretty rough background. are really not exactly the setting that people really thrive in, but I tell every kid out there, don't give up hope. It really lies on you. You can make a difference. You can choose who you want to be, because one day you could very well be in front of everybody in Harris County asking to be the next Harris County District Attorney. So don't give up on that.
That's right. So it took a lot of no's, right, to make that one yes.
That's right.
To get you where you're at today, because I'm sure that growing up in these situations, I mean, just we talk about the inner critic, right? When we work with our heroes and, you know, the pressures that they get from day-to-day pressures, we do encourage them. One of our topics is always listening to that inner critic that tells us that we can't, you can't, you can't. Tell them about that one story we had.
Yeah, we had a little boy that during the STAR test, he was stressed out from it. So we taught him, he was in our second cohort, we taught him how to talk back to the inner critic, because just because you have an inner voice that tells you that you can't do something doesn't mean it's true. So he came back and told us how he crushed the STAR test, because he told that inner critic, I can do this.
I can do it. So, I mean, I'm sure that, you know, growing up, and especially in you know, in the environment, that how many times, you know, we want to believe that. I know I've been there. I mean, I'm listening to your childhood. I'm sure Victor can just relate from his childhood too. But just those inner critics within ourselves to say, hey, you can't.
The word "you can't" does not reside in my dictionary. I've been told you can't my entire life. You can't graduate high school, you can't play sports, you can't make anything of your life, you can't go to college, you certainly can't go to law school, and now I'm being told you can't be DA. You know what? I got a message for all the you can'ts. Go look at my background and tell me I can and I will. This is what you need to be telling yourself, is don't let everybody else define you and tell you what you can't do. Go out there and show them what you can do. And this is hopefully the message we're reaching all the kids out there that says, look, you strip away the suit, people don't really realize who I am, and then they look at me a certain way, and then they listen to me and they're like, you're not what I expected. And I say, never judge a book by its cover. Don't ever do that.
And so,
you never know.
And so, Dan, so then you carry on, you went into you were in the foster home, horrible experience, you know, that you endured. And then here you are, you're in the brink of graduating. You're in football.
So I got out of foster care.
Okay.
And I moved in with friends that I met through the Salvation Army when I was 12 years old.
12 years old.
A family that took me in. It was the first time that I actually had a real mom. And I'll tell you this, I would be a different person today if I didn't have someone show me what compassion and love and unconditional love really was. She loved me like I was her own child. A fantastic woman. She died Christmas Day in 2011. I graduated law school early in December 2011 just so she can see me graduate.
Wow.
So she was pretty much the person who's helped define who I am. And having that stability with that is something that I'll never forget. And I'm still very close to her kids as well. I mean, we're like pretty like best friends and stuff. So having that, it was a blessing.
Wow. And then so she was there at least for your military years as well.
She was. Yep. She managed to come to where I was stationed. She lived the life as best she could. She was fighting breast cancer and lost her battle in 2011.
Wow. My condolences.
Thank you.
Victor, you have any questions?
I am curious to know, Dan, early on in your law career, what were some of those defining experiences that is the through line to where you are today?
So in the DA's office, most people that work there, mom and dad paid for elementary, junior high, and high school, like my opponent, paid for college and law school, and their first job in life is the district attorney's office. When I went to the DA's office, I had 12 years of business experience, military experience, and a lifetime of hardship and adversity. So I went in there with a little different eyes. And when I saw across the room, when I walked to the courtroom the first time, I didn't see defendants. I saw people. That made me a little different. And I didn't go in there to socialize. I didn't go in there to be a drinking buddy. I didn't go in there to do happy hour. I went in there to actually work. Most prosecutors in 3 years get between 20 and 25 trials at most. I tried over 70 trials in the same period of time.
Wow.
I go on there and I'm just outworked. And again, it goes back to being an asset. I want to say, look, I'm worth keeping around. And so there are a lot of cases that I came across, but I'll tell you, working the, what it used to be the Family Criminal Law Division was really important to me. That's me, because I got to be a voice for victims that would not show up to court, did not want to testify. I listened to them and I represented them, and I want to give victims a voice, even when they're afraid to. I went in there and took on cases, and I've even challenged other prosecutors. There was a case that came up that where I know a prosecutor could not make it, and she's going to go to trial. And I told her, you got to dismiss this. Go out there and ask him to do a class and dismiss. Maybe we can do something to kind of thwart this from happening again, just something.
Correct.
But you can't make your case. So I went toe-to-toe with a prosecutor telling her, you can't make your case. She went to trial anyway, and 3 hours later, the person was acquitted. I was right.
Wow.
And yet it ends up in my DA file, because when you don't walk on eggshells and you challenge other prosecutors, sometimes you get a target. I also protected a defendant or a victim's rights in the DA's office. There was a lady and her husband were hit from behind from an intoxicated driver at 106 miles an hour and about killed them both. But yet it showed up in a misdemeanor court as a misdemeanor DWI. I was asked to evaluate it, talk to the doctors, and actually determined it was an intox assault case and got it indicted as a felony. But yet I was going against other prosecutors and their judgment, and I was told that I had poor judgment in my evaluation. But what they didn't know is a few weeks later, that case would have pled to a felony. I was right. I went to fight for a defendant's right in the DA's office against a prosecutor, and I fought for a victim's rights against prosecutors in the DA's office. You have to do the right thing in the DA's office, whether somebody's looking or not. That's what integrity is, and that's what I plan on bringing to it. Now, I fought cases in there where there was a trial, a Billy Chauncey case, to where this person, it was pretty bad. It was a torture, almost killing. They had tricked this person coming upstairs. They stripped him down. They burned him with a blowtorch. They stuck a pit bull in there to attack him. They cut him. The guy jumped out of a window to escape, a second floor window. Wow. Ran down the street with these guys shooting at him, beat on a neighbor's door, and the person obviously didn't let him in. They didn't know what was going on. And they finally, the police were called. Police got there, helicopters around, and the people involved all took responsibility except for one person, the ringleader. Right. And that was the person I went to trial. And I gave, despite the complaining witness who had horrible history himself, but he was still a victim. That person got 25 years, I believe, in prison, or 25 or 35 years. We get justice for people even when you're not the upstanding citizen, because anybody can be a victim. Crime does not discriminate, doesn't care if you're Democrat, Republican, doesn't care a lot, being man, woman, child, doesn't matter sometimes. Now, as a defense attorney, I ran across a lot of cases that disturbed me. And the most disturbing case that I had was the DA's office victimizing another person. My client let a homeless person stay in his house one night. The person refused to leave, so he called the police 5 times. Police came and removed him from the home. The 5th time the guy broke in, because my client lives in a pretty bad area, the garage door was broke. He had a refrigerator blocking the back door because the guy broke it in multiple times. There was a hole in the wall, and they had a board over it, and the guy kicked in the board at 10 o'clock at night, was coming in. My client's freaking out. He goes, I just got to get my stuff out of the room. He said, go get it. The guy emerged with a tomahawk hatchet. Wow. I took a swipe at my client, cut him across here, hit the wall. My client backed up, pushed a chair down the hall, grabbed a .22 rifle, and shot the hatchet out of his hand. The guy then reached down with the other arm to get it, and he shot the arm. At this point, the threat's neutralized. He takes him to the front door, calls 911 and the police. Keep in mind, my client was attacked in his own home with a hatchet-wielding person that broke in. Guess who got arrested? My client, for defending himself in his own home. The sad part is the DA's office of prosecutors would not dismiss it. I had to go to the grand jury. I got it dismissed to the grand jury. They no-billed it because they saw that you have a right to defend yourself in your home. Wow. And as district attorney, I'll tell you, I will never victimize you twice. You have the right to defend yourself in Harris County. So those are the cases that have been impacted. There's a lot more, but we don't have that much time to go into every one of them. So.
Dan, having worked in the criminal justice system myself, I know from hearing your story, I know some of the elements that are part of your identity. So a couple of things for our viewers. A person that goes against the establishment because of politics, because of norms, that again is that groupthink, that's an individual thinker that has a good GPS for right and wrong. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I would agree with that.
Because again, it is your guidance that you're following to know the right thing, as opposed to compromising on that just to fit in, just to advance your careers, just so your resume looks good, that you didn't make any waves, and that you can continue scaling up in the political system to be able to reach whatever pinnacle you're striving for. That's one. The other thing is, from listening to your story, Dan, is the fact that you have been a witness on both sides of the aisle, as a victim yourself and as a prosecutor. But it's like it takes a person with your keen awareness to go into the courtroom to be able to say, we're not looking at the nuance of this case here, and if we just do a little more digging, we're going to be able to find what your instincts are telling you. Talk about that.
So what I want to foster in the DA's office is have a lot of prosecutors that think like me. I want to create a positive working environment to where you're not walking on eggshells or in fear of being attacked by doing your job. I want every prosecutor to do the right thing, whether you're looking or not. We have to do that. We owe it to every victim down there, and we also owe it to every defendant down there. Nobody's treated differently. Nobody's above the law. Everybody's treated fairly, equally, and honestly. What I saw and experienced in the DA's office when I was there was exactly that. It was inter-office bullying, and I will have a zero tolerance for any bullying. Like, you will be escorted out of the building. we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
We have way too many, the dockets are too big, we have too many criminals down here, or people that are accused of crimes, we have too many victims to protect. So we have to fix that in the DA's office internally before we can start working on externally.
You know where my mind goes with this, Vicki, is I know you've seen lots of crime shows or lots of legal shows, and it's the audience that sees the full picture because there's different players, and unless you take that panoramic view, it is only then that you can have justice, as opposed to having that tunnel vision.
Well, it happens every day.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the actual political system and where we're at now and why solutions have not been made.
Exactly.
Because everyone is looking at it from their point of reference.
The silos that
Exactly.
people live in.
And it's like, rather than taking the time to really just sit down, let's listen, let's work through solutions, because through every issue that's out there, there's a solution. How many times have we talked about that?
Exactly. It's what is the solution? The problems have been, like in your case, they've been around for years. Nothing changes. So what's the change that makes the change?
Well,
it takes leadership.
It takes leadership. It takes work.
Yes.
It takes rolling up the sleeves like we talked about earlier, Dan, because, we had a situation and I said, unfortunately, but fortunately, right? With the HERO program, this is why I just thrive on it. We go back into these little kids that are here. What the program and what we do is identify the projects that the kids can do to keep them busy, keep them working, keep their self-esteem up, their confidence. And that's throughout all kids, whether it's here or the Webster kids or whether they're in whatever, location throughout the city, everyone has that opportunity to work. And why I say that is because just listening to your story and how, because I have somewhat the same, similar story where, really didn't have, I wasn't even pushed. Didn't even think going to school was an option. I thought literally I'm a Mexican girl. I'm just I'll be lucky if I'm cashier. That was my little inch of hope. And so going back with the HERO program, we put our kids to work. all kids, right? And so I think that right now, the answer is we're going back into, so what is the answer? It's the children, you know, because right now with everyone, there's no solutions, there's no, and if there are solutions, no one's really executing.
Well, there's no solutions because, again, the system is flawed and broken because nobody wants to put themselves up. You are an example
Yes.
in the community that you were willing to put yourself out, willing to take the risk, the criticism, the blackballing,
Yep.
because, again, your sense of right and wrong was on spot because of your trajectory in life.
Absolutely. And not only that, though, think about it. Think about him. I mean, coming out of the school system, graduating, playing football, right? You're playing football at that point in high school. Then you go into the military. How did that happen? Because again, people who are being served are not accustomed, which you weren't served. You were like, hey, I'm here to serve.
Yeah.
You know, and you carried on this mindset as this little kid, of course, to say, I'm going to go against the odds. You know, that stubbornness, that fierce, you know, I can just see it, you know, because I see it now. But what triggered you to get into that military again?
So,
And how did it impact you?
so when I joined the military, one, it was my only choice. I didn't have any other options. I didn't have any family to turn to. There's nobody to help me. When I turned 18, the family I lived with said, Dan, you're on your own. What was I going to do? I couldn't go to college. I couldn't, go to work for a low-paying job, but at least in the military, I could hopefully get more benefit out of it, more structure out of it. But also, I wanted to be a state trooper in Texas, and one day a Texas Ranger. But I was 18 years old, you can't be a state trooper. So I said, well, if I go to the military and become a police officer, by the time I get out of the military at 21, I can be a state trooper. That's what drove me to go to the Air Force.
Why a state trooper?
Because I wanted to be a Texas Ranger. I wanted to go after corruption.
That
Because
mistake.
where I was taken away from my family in the middle of the night was Hardin County. That's in Kuntz.
Oh.
And at that time, I had a different take on law enforcement and corruption and everything else. Because you see, my family was what you call white trailer trash and was singled out. My dad got harassed all the time by game wardens. I watched a guy with a badge threaten my dad on the side of the road because he was catching too many fish. A guy named Billy Weaver in Point Blank, Texas, on Lake Livingston. I watched that. Nobody should have that kind of power over somebody and use that. My dad wasn't doing anything wrong. He was fishing for a living, he was trying to make a living. And if they're doing that and then pulling me away and putting me into a bad foster environment for somebody that was out there for money and also that was raping kids,
Wow.
this is not what I wanted to be a part of, and I wanted to be a part of the system that fixes it. So I wanted to be a state trooper and one day Texas Ranger so I can go after that. And now I find myself in a position, and the reason I went back to work for the DA's office, or went to work for the DA's office in the first place, is I was going to take a different job that was paying a whole lot more with tax law. But when I walked into that courtroom, I remembered why I went to the Air Force in the first place. This is a place that I could actually protect victims.
Right.
I turned down a $500,000 a year grossing job for $60,000 a year.
Wow.
And I did it in 1 hour. I didn't even look back. This is why you take my makeup and everything about me and put it in the DA's office. Have you ever had a 46-year-old Republican get up here and tell you they were a child victim? What I bring to the table is a former prosecutor, a defense attorney, a real defense attorney for longer than I was a prosecutor, 16 years of business experience before and after getting a law degree, someone that knows what it means to be falsely accused and have to fight, and more importantly, someone that knows what it means to be a victim. You've never had a candidate run for DA with all that in their system. What I bring to the table is someone that can relate to everybody in Harris County, someone that actually can do real change and help all the kids out there that we can, and make sure all the kids and other victims have a voice and someone that listens to them, because there was nobody there for me and I never want anybody else to feel that way. We can do this, and we can do this together. This is a one chance to really make and do real change. Not this fake justice reform, not this paid justice reform, not the fake bonding reform, but real change with someone with my eyes. You give me that chance and I'll deliver a safer Harris County, even for the children you're talking about.
Let me ask you this with the children. I mean, did you ever experience anything with the CPS? I mean, did your parents, when you were going through, because I know CPS.
That's who took us away and put us in foster care.
Okay, so of course, you know, the
Yes.
CPS program. I just want to make
Yes.
sure, how was, if you don't mind me asking, because how was that experience?
I wanted to be a state trooper and Texas Ranger one day, go after corruption, if that answers your question. I was not a big fan of it.
So
I'm not saying all CPS is corrupt, but I'm telling you right now, there's a better way to do this.
I was actually a consultant for Foster Parents Association, and I got to hear some of the stories that go on. And so Vicki, in listening to Dan's story, what I'm hearing is that passion, and it's really a calling. This isn't, you're not applying for a job. This is a calling that that is driving him to, again, to bring change, to affect change,
Right.
to bring justice where it's easier to just dismiss a case or push it through the system, just like you were pushed through school or through the foster system to get rid of a problem, as opposed to heading off a problem head on and
Right.
dealing with it with that tenacity to never give up, to seek justice.
That's right. That's right. Wow,
Exactly.
I'm totally impressed. And so going into you know, looking at I mean, you have served. You know, when I was looking at your background as a lawyer, you know, crime. What other specialties?
Just all criminal law.
All criminal law.
I've done tax law, but mainly I stick with criminal law.
Okay, so you were. I thought I had saw something with tax in there.
Well, I got a master's in tax law. I was going to take over and do that and go that direction. I was basically an accountant with a law degree. But the DA's office came a calling, and you're right, it's a calling.
It's a calling.
It's not something, it's something that you want people down there that just want to do the right thing and protect victims and protect defendants' rights. Just do your job.
But you see, I think that even with that, I was thinking about that because of the tax and his mindset of the solutions. When you're working with numbers all day long, and you have that gift already, when it comes to basically identifying. I mean, because of course you're going to carry on a budget, right? And so when I'm looking at that and just listening to your story, listening to everything, I mean, having the mathematical mindset. What are you thinking? Why are you looking at?
You made me think of the big controversy right now in the DA's office that they missed out on $6 million worth of funding because somebody didn't read the instructions at the DA's office, and that's why they missed the window they missed out on $6 million budget that now has to be made up.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
When you were talking about
the
numbers,
math,
it's
I'm
like
this, yeah. Well, I didn't hear about that one.
Well, there's a lot of different stories with the budget right now because the DA's office is contending they did file it, but when the budget person is the person who presents it, and they didn't present everything. Right now, we're actually funding more to defend the accused down there than actually fight crime in Harris County.
Wow.
Because I believe that the PD's office, if I'm not mistaken, the budget's $71 million, and then the public defender's getting another $60 million. That's $131 million. And then the DA's office gets like $115 million or something. So I'm not sure what happened with the budget. I'm not going to speak on anybody's behalf. But as far as budgeting, I've run my business 16 years. The DA's office and the DA's position is more about running a business than prosecuting. What Harris County gets is they get a prosecutor and a businessman, because I plan on leading by example from the front. You show people what you want them to do. You don't try to command from the rear. You need to be the tip of the spear and go out there and show everybody. You need to work along side by side, because not only will I be running a business and balancing a budget and managing everybody, because there's like 1,000 employees down there, 350 prosecutors, but I'm also going to be prosecuting cases because it's all hands on deck. We all have to work down there. Nobody should be in their office during docket. They should all be in a court helping out the best way they can, training the young prosecutors, creating a positive work environment where we want to get more qualified people to want to come work there, because it's a calling. You're not going to get rich off of it, but the reward for doing that job is just, it's amazing. But you got to give people the tools. You got to give them the support, and I plan on doing that.
Okay. And so what would you say right now if would you change in Houston's crime, with Houston's crime? What would be the first?
Well, the first thing you have to do is build a positive environment for people to want to go to work. Hire more prosecutors within the budget. I'll take a pay cut if I have to get one more prosecutor. I need to bridge the gap with law enforcement because there's a disconnect between law enforcement and the DA's office, and nobody likes anybody, even when they call in. We need to fix that communication error. We need to get law enforcement to trust us, because when the community calls law enforcement, they don't trust law enforcement because law enforcement can't trust the DA's office. It starts at the top. It starts with the DA. You take somebody like me and it'll filter all the way down to people calling in. That you have a DA you can trust, law enforcement know they can trust them, and you can trust law enforcement. That is day one. We can do it, and we can make a difference. Honestly, unlike other races on the ballot, our local races can affect your life on the very first day. Other races like the presidential and the Senate races, they can affect your life, but not like the down ballot races like the judges, the sheriff, and the DA's office. These will affect you, and their policies will affect you from day one. I don't ever want any citizen out there to be victimized by the DA's office for defending themselves in their own home. You're never going to see that with me. We can change this, and we can make a difference.
I like that. I like that. What else would you want the community to know about Dan Simon?
That I will do the right thing whether you're looking or not. Nobody owns me. I'm not bought and paid for. I'm not doing favors, and I play no favors to anybody. Everybody's treated equally and fairly. Whether you're a county judge or somebody accused of a crime, I'll go in there and I'll look at every case. Nobody's treated differently. And if that case is a witch hunt, I will dismiss it, walk out on the front steps and tell you why. But everybody gets treated the exact same way. Nobody's above the law. Nobody should have that ability. No defense attorney should have the ability to get favoritism off of a DA because they've contributed to their campaign. You don't have to contribute to my campaign because I'm going to treat you the exact same as everybody else. This is what I bring to the DA's office and what I can foster from the day one. It is unlike other candidates that I see out there that are more interested for themselves and doing favors for their friends. But I'll be a DA that plays no favors for anybody. You will all get a fair shake under my administration.
That's awesome. What questions do you have?
Dan, I have a question related to your experience in prosecuting as a prosecutor. Did you deal with any cases of child abuse?
So in the DA's office, I managed to work on misdemeanor cases, assault cases, DWIs, and felony, ag assault, deadly weapons, intox assault cases, things like that.
So it's more family court that deals with that?
Yeah, well, no, it's in the DA's office, but we had different divisions in there.
Okay.
And I was never assigned to that division. And honestly, with my background and what I bring to the table, I can fit any position down there. And as qualifications go, I would use run my resume up against anybody that wants to be DA. And if this race was decided by resume alone, I win. You take everything that I've done, the business experience, being a real criminal defense attorney, being a real prosecutor, and being a child victim, you put all that rolled into one, what I bring to the table, we've never had in a DA before. I am somebody that will represent everybody equally through the entire town. Because being the first Thurgood Marshall District Attorney in Harris County history is a pretty cool way to make history. And I'm proud of that, and I hope I get the opportunity to do that. But I want to inspire everybody else out there. You get to decide who you are. You can't let other people tell you. And that's exactly what I bring to the table. You decide. I need your help. I can help you, and I can make a difference from day one.
Dan, who were the role models that you had growing up that you imagine yourself, maybe as an alter ego that you were striving to become, that you are a self-made person now?
Man, that's a loaded question. I'll tell you the person that is my biggest inspiration. It goes back to a woman that showed me what unconditional love and caring was, and that was my mom. May not have been related by blood, but she was my mom. And that fostering, that is my biggest role model, and that has built the compassion component in me. Because up till then, I've known nothing but hate. I knew nothing but abuse. I knew nothing but rejection. Mm-hmm. It was having that little bit, for a short period of time it was, impacted my life the most. So I would have to say my mom that took me in when I was 12 years old.
Love is a very powerful healing force for anyone out there.
Absolutely.
I've seen it working within the system.
Correct. And I mean, and just to hear everything you've said, I'm sure that she also encouraged, she seemed like an encourager to probably be your #1 cheerleader. Is that right?
Oh, she definitely was.
Yeah.
When everybody else, they just finally stopped doubting me. They're like, we tell Dan he can't do something, and he just continues to go to college. People just stop telling me that I can't do something once you get to know me, because there's no such word as I can't.
That became a motivating
I know.
rally call
And so
for
now,
you.
I mean, of course, you know, you're married.
I am.
You are children?
We don't have any kids.
Okay.
She's actually a full-time doctor.
Okay.
She works out of state. She does a lot of locum work. She goes to places that don't have really, I'd say, not as qualified doctors, but she's fantastic at what she does.
Another person with a calling. This is not a job. This is a calling. You do it because you're called upon by God, your guardian angels, whoever
Higher power.
your higher power is.
Well, my wife was immigrated here legally when she was 16 years old. And she went to Rutgers, became an engineer. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to be a doctor. And she couldn't test very well because of the language barrier. So she went to Grenada, and I met her here in Houston. And I tell everybody she was very lucky the day she met me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she gets a kick out of that. But
We have to have her
she's
on the show.
I
fantastic.
know.
She's,
I'm
yeah,
like, put her on the
no,
phone.
yeah,
Pick up the
we-
phone now.
get me in
Let's call her.
trouble. No, she's fantastic, and it's crazy that I come from a town of 556, a little redneck town here in Texas, and she comes from Iran. Like, we're on two different sides, but it's amazing that we're
Sure.
very similar in the respects. We just work hard, and she just wants to outwork. She's in a field that's dominated by men, and I promote her. Wherever she wants to work, I never tell her no. She wants to work out of state, honey, I fully support you no matter where you go, because that's who I am. And she is thriving. She's doing great. So she's out there really saving lives. I'm just trying to do my little bit and try to help what I can.
Sounds like a match made in heaven here.
I know. I know. So currently, you know, what would you do? I know you talked about the city or county, like in the school systems to avoid. I mean, what kind of action items, ideas, solutions would you say would be out there for children who have gone through what you're experienced?
I can tell you now that I want to look at every case that comes in through juvenile, and let's see how we can fix it. Not just put these kids in a home or wherever we're going to put them in TDC, the junior TDC, and throw the key away. Mm-hmm. Let's give them an opportunity. Let's try to fix it.
Correct.
Because everybody, sometimes a lot of people are acting out because that's their defense mechanism. When they're being attacked, they get probably more violent because that's their defense.
Correct.
What can we do to fix that? What can we do to identify that? Because I'm not interested in making high school pipeline to prison. I'm not interested in making career criminals. I'm only interested in prosecuting criminals that make crime a career. And I want our children that are having issues, I don't want to make them criminals. What can we do to fix this? Now, there are some kids, I'm going to tell you, we're not going to be able to save them all. And those are the ones that are out there killing people. And it's sad, but there are a lot of kids we can save. But first, I want to make sure that they also can trust me, that if they're being abused, that they can come forward, no matter who the abuser is. We've got to give them hope that there's somebody that's going to listen to them and give them a voice. Mm-hmm. So yes, we can make a difference in the DA's office.
Did your mind go to the
Our hero.
juvenile detention?
Oh yeah, I thought of that too.
Yeah.
The heroes over in the juvie system. I mean, Victor and I, what was it, back this summer?
Yeah.
We were invited to come out and to speak to both parents and the residents of the juvenile system. I think they were ranging anywhere from like 14, 13 years old maybe,
Yes.
to about, what was it, 17?
17,
It's gotta
yeah.
be 17.
17.
So they ranged. I mean, they were all across the board from Texas. I think at that time they had maybe about 67.
Yeah, because other communities don't have the facilities. So Harris County is taking in these youth from other parts of the country.
Yep. And so we had the opportunity to come in and to kind of just build bridges, fortify the relationships between the children and parents or grandparents in some cases. They were just, you know, siblings that were there because parents were not there, unfortunately. But yeah, it was an experience for sure. We'll be going back soon again.
Well, I can tell you this, having outside influence and having a voice in the DA's office, like agencies like yours and others, we need to have the community involved in the DA's office. This is your office, it's not mine. I'm applying to work there for you. But we need to make sure we have participation from different leaders throughout the community, everywhere, from the different churches, from different organizations. Everybody has to know that they have a voice in the DA's office. We all need to have like a round table. What can we do to improve things? What can we do to make a difference?
Correct.
And understand that you're not going to save everybody. It's not going to happen. We do have those problems.
But yeah, but what's so important. Go ahead.
But here's the thing. But if we don't at least try, we'll never know.
Absolutely. We have to lay down those seeds. We have to plant seeds right now, water what's out there, because just looking and hearing and just the detachment that children have these days from their own, you know, emotions. I mean, they need us all. I mean, and it takes that village, and that's what we thrive on here with Hero. It's just creating the village and knowing that we all need each other, right? If whether you're a politician, politicians can't do this alone.
No.
It takes the community, you know, and it takes a unified front, meaning that having not just the unconditional love, but the unconditional respect, because I think that watching the children, the lack of respect that happens in the schools and homes, the lack of respect, I mean, it only carries on to children who will take that outside and not respect other cultures, religions. I mean, we live in a nation that's full of diversity. You know, we live in a nation that's full of richness, pretty much. You've been in the military. I mean, you made an oath. You made it for everyone. Did we not? It wasn't even when we make that oath. It's even for, you know, like I tell people, it's not about any sort of party. You know, where we're going at the end game once we're done here on earth, there's nothing. There's no religion. There's no color. There is...
Military strips that all away. They shave your head bald and put you in with a group of guys and you're all one unit.
You're one
Does not
unit.
matter.
Exactly.
But we have to teach responsibility and accountability early on.
Yes.
We do that for a lot of our children. We can make a difference and just know that they can trust the system and the process by having someone like me with my eyes in there. This is how we do it.
Well, I thank you for supporting, you know, Hero, and for just taking the time to just listen.
Absolutely.
Listen to us and the program in itself, because that's exactly our desire, Dan, is to get into these schools and to religious affiliations. Doesn't matter across the board whether what religion a child is, but it's teaching the child the very values of being helpful, encouraging, respectful, on task.
Can you imagine this, though? Kind of goes right into what you guys are doing. From foster care to the district attorney's office in one of the largest counties in the country. What kind of cool story that is.
Oh, yeah.
This is what we can do together. So I'm Dan Simons, and I'm running to be the next Harris County District Attorney. I can't do this alone. I need everybody's help. I need your help. I need your help. We can do this together, and I'm here to work for you.
Well, I appreciate that. We really do. And so until next time, viewers, you know, we want to thank Dan Simon for being here. And if viewers or listeners that have a question, how can they get a hold of you?
So you can go to www.danforda.com. You'll find all my information and my contact information there as well.
Thank you. And as far as Mission One USA, we thank you for watching. Visit us or mission1usa.com. We are where you'll find information about the Hero Network, the Hero program. We're excited about the great things that are happening. Victor, you want to share just a little bit, or we're just going to hold off on the program?
Too early to
It's too early? Okay.
release.
Sorry,
to release
guys.
the news, yeah.
Yeah, it's too early to release news, but there's just some exciting
Some
things
very exciting things.
that are happening.
I know you're dying to tell them.
I know. I mean, here and there I may share it, but it's okay. So, but we're excited. We do have a podcast, so follow us on Mission One USA podcast. And we do have our live streaming with the Hero Network. So we're just really excited. As we mentioned before, we're here to bring in resources, education, community leaders, heroes, just like our Dan Simon that's here today. So we thank you for watching. Victor, is there anything else you want to tell America, tell Houston?
Have a great week.
Have a great week, and remember that we are Houston strong. We are Houston strong. That if we can change Houston, we can change the nation, because I believe and we believe that we have what it takes to make that happen. We have what it takes to bring in the unity in our community. So please join us, continue to just be a part of this beautiful, growing city.
Remember, as goes Houston, so goes the nation.
That's our motto. So thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.
Thank you for watching the Hero Network. This episode was brought to you by Escalate Performance Solutions, your partner in growth and success. To find out how we can help elevate your organization, visit us at weescalate.com.